We're ready. Hello, welcome to this week's episode of Hollywood Matrimony Live. Thanks so much for joining us live on Facebook and YouTube. You can also find us on the Instagram and the Twitter, and not on LinkedIn, because I said LinkedIn last week, and I don't know what I was thinking. I was just trying to get us out there. Please make sure, I don't even know what I'm thinking, that you go like, share, subscribe, join, thumbs up, compartir, all these things that you're supposed to do. Tell your family, tell your friends, tell everyone, because the more likes and things we get, the more free stuff we can give to you. So right now it's telling me, hey, we're live. I'm going to go share right now. All right. We have a good variety of movies to talk about today. I need to write message, write post. This thing is so annoying. Like, stop talking. Come watch the show. It didn't say show. How you doing, babe?
I'm tired. My eye hurts.
Well, yeah, you got poked in the eye by a magic wand.
Held by Freddy Krueger.
I don't know. Y'all probably can't tell. Maybe you can kind of tell that both of them have wands.
They don't have
Harry Potter wands.
Because nothing makes sense like giving supernatural serial killers more magic.
Yeah, there you go. So they have magic wands, and I guess you bent over for something and poked yourself in the eye.
Picking up your tissues.
Thank you, babe. I appreciate it.
We had a house guest, and so I was just re-putting everything back together. They didn't do anything wrong, but in the midst of it, the tissues got knocked over, so I was picking up, and I bent over.
Thank you, baby. I
Freddie
appreciate it.
stabbed me in the eye socket.
Well, I hope you're okay.
I'm blind
All
forever.
right. We have such a plethora and mixed match movies to talk about today. What do you want to start with? What do you want to do?
I don't care, because I have like a couple I've seen that you haven't seen.
Correct.
You have one that you don't remember if you talked about.
Yeah, I don't remember. So we'll start with that.
Do that one. She has this one that she doesn't remember. She told us. I think she did, but just in case, she's going to tell it again.
Maybe I did, but in case I didn't, okay, I think maybe I did.
You did it last week.
Cinderella Story, Starstruck. It's in the Cinderella Story series. So the very first one was the one with Hilary Duff, I believe, called The Cinderella Story. Then there's Cinderella Story Christmas Wish. Then there's Cinderella Story whatever. There's one with, what's the other little girl?
Cinderella Story whatever.
What's the other little girl, the famous one?
Oh.
Hilary Duff and somebody else. It doesn't matter. This is the next one. This is Cinderella Story Starstruck. Basically, they all have the theme where it's this sad little girl who has a wicked stepmother and the evil stepsisters. This one, this time, it's a stepmother, and now it's a stepsister and stepbrother. So we're at least modernizing that part of the story. The thing that I didn't particularly care for in this particular movie is that they recast the same stepmother and stepsister from the previous Cinderella Story Christmas.
It's just like American Horror Story where they reuse the same cast for new stories.
I mean, I guess if that's where we're going with this, but that's not where I was trying to go. So wasn't really
think that anybody was really trying to go? Anybody to really keep it up with that?
You know what? Probably not, but I was. And then the little girl in it, the main girl, her name is Bailey
Phyllis.
Madison from The Good Witch. So if you watch that series, that's the main little girl on here. She's actually really talented. She sings, she dances, she does everything. In this one, she
Did she do all of it in this movie?
She did all of it in this movie.
Wow.
She had to pretend in this movie to be a boy to get cast in this film.
Of course.
Because, you know, the wicked stepmother would not let her be in the movie, so, or
Only
whatever
boys
that's
do
happening. Yes. It was a mess, y'all. She's the best thing about the movie. The rest of it's a little bit.
It's a mess, y'all.
The rest of it's a little bit silly. I do like that they always try to put in. Selena Gomez was in the second Cinderella Story. That's what I was trying to think. They always try to inject some of your typical Cinderella themes, like the mother, the stepsisters. In this one, they even have at one point her wearing like the little blue dress thing, a la Cinderella.
Yeah.
They even have her with like the little headscarf thing, cleaning like Cinderella. So there's some elements to that. And of course, you have your handsome prince who has to come save you from these horrible people.
Because always got to always be the one that saves you.
Exactly. The cutest thing about this movie is her pet pig.
Oh, I thought you were going to say the credits.
No, the cutest thing. That's the best. Actually, the story itself It's okay. I have to take into consideration that I'm probably not.
Do you have to, though?
Yes, I am not the main audience for this. It's probably someone half my age who would see this little boy and be like, ooh, he's so cute. But I see him and I'm like, he's probably the age of our children. So I'm in a different age bracket and probably not your main person. But it's a cute little movie. If you're into the series, then you're probably going to like it. I think my favorite is probably the original and then Christmas Wish or whatever it's called.
There even exists one that would be a favorite.
Well, that's the one I liked, was the original one. And then I don't know what the other Christmas one, A Christmas Wish, I thought was really cute. So there you go. Talked about that. I have now talked about this. Let's all remember I mentioned it.
So
I'll put a link to my review. I'll put a link to my review in the comment section.
Next week, we'll talk about it once again.
One more time, just in case we forget that we talked about it. All right. Where do we want to go? We have so much to talk about today. We always wonder during the week, are we going to have anything to talk about? And then we end up with like 6 movies that we've watched. So where do you want to go, babe? Let me show you what we've got. This is what we've got here. Okay. Stop watching fightings.
Sorry, somebody I've been really following, and they're training and getting ready or fighting tonight. And I think they lost.
Can we watch it?
No, I think it's already happened.
Oh.
I think she was posting about nobody's more disappointed in my performance.
But
I didn't get to read to see if she won, but disappointed in her performance or what.
That sounds like you. Even when you look good, you think it's horrible.
Most time.
Where do you want to
start with?
Where do you want to go?
I don't care.
Any of these.
Is that everything?
Yeah, you want to go here, then here?
That all of it?
Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Hmm.
Yeah.
There's only one I saw then without you.
That.
Yeah, you saw everything else then. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, whatever. Wherever you want to go.
You want to start here?
Sure.
Because it was a week ago, I think. All right, friends.
What was a week ago?
This didn't come out last week?
No, it comes out this week.
Oh, okay. Well, we're on time. All right. So this is a movie called Midnight in the Switchgrass, starring Bruce Willis, Megan Fox, and Emil Hirsch.
And Colson Baker, I think is his name, a.k.a. Machine Gun Kelly.
Yes.
Which I believe this is the movie that they met, Megan Fox and Machine Gun Kelly, and they are now a real-life item.
There you go.
This is probably the only thing that came out of this movie.
Now, here's the interesting thing. So basically, let me just tell you.
I don't know if you should ever use the word interesting.
There's interest. Let me just give you the synopsis real quick. They're following or trying to figure out a killer. There's some prostitutes who are found dead all along up and down the highway. The local police is just like, meh. But one police officer who's, what's his name?
Buford T. Justice.
I was going to say Emil.
Oh, Emil Hirsch.
Emil Hirsch is like, there's some sort of connection. Megan Fox and Bruce Willis are FBI, and they realize there is a connection. So potential serial killer issue, killing prostitutes. There we go. That's the story.
I could say probably what most of you are thinking. Megan Fox is an FBI agent. This is the one version of her being an FBI agent I could have bought into, because her character's doing like the undercover stuff, or they're trying to catch rapists and stuff like that. So instead of her just trying to be this gritty, tough, badass cop, which I just don't get, like that other movie that came out where she's supposed to be like a mercenary and something else. She just doesn't, even though she's done Transformers and stuff, she just doesn't come across to me like an action chick. And there's a fight scene in this movie that further cements that she is not an action chick. She can't throw punches for shoot. Here's the issue with this film. First of all, if you don't know, you look at Bruce Willis is in it, so you're thinking,
awesome.
All right, it's a Bruce Willis flick. Bruce Willis, if you don't know, has over the last several years, I'll say several at this point, he's done a ton of straight-to-home release movies. I don't know if he's got some debts to pay, if he just likes to work, because I know there's some actors, they just want to work. You know, Eric Roberts was notorious for doing a lot of those, and he told me in an interview one time that he said he just wants to work. And when he looks at a script, he doesn't even read the whole script. He sometimes looks at it. If he finds his character interesting,
he'll do it.
He will do it. He has no idea sometimes. He's like, some of these films I've never seen. I don't know what the context later beyond in the rest of the movie about my character. I just found my character interesting.
Yeah.
He goes, sometimes I just need to pay bills.
Yeah.
You know, and so I want to work. I need to make the money. I don't know Bruce Willis' situation, but he seems to be phoning it into a lot of projects over the last few years. You know, Die Hard was his big franchise. That's kind of seemed to drive up, even though they keep talking about another one fixing to happen. He doesn't seem to do a lot of straight to theater stuff anymore. But I will say, you know, a movie like the Death Wish remake he did with Eli Roth, I thought was really good. You know, so the potential's there.
Yeah.
That being said, they trick you because with him being front and center on the cover, you assume, okay, this isn't kind of a cameo. This is a full-on thing. Yes, he's in this movie a decent amount of time, but this is a Megan Fox movie. This is not a Bruce Willis movie. And it's a mess. This movie is just a mess.
Yeah, what I was going to say at the beginning is...
It is a mess.
The interesting thing to me is you have your three main actors here who independently, we know, can put out some good performances. Megan Fox, I'm going to say decent. She's not one of my favorites. Bruce Willis, we know, can be good. Emil Hirsch, we know, can be good.
Emil Hirsch is the shining light of this movie.
My problem is I don't know if it's the director. I don't know if it's the script or if it's really performances or if it's just the style in which it was shot.
I'm going to say yes.
It just doesn't seem to all come together. The story itself is compelling, and
here's the issue:
if they'd make a few little twists, it would have been really good.
Emil Hirsch. Okay, so essentially, you have two stories happening.
Yeah.
That intertwine to become one.
Try one of these
Emil Hirsch's side of the story is actually good.
Uh-huh.
It's compelling. It's interesting. He's good in the movie. He seems to be one of the few people in the movie that really take it serious.
Trying.
He's really trying to. And he brings the emotion and the thriller aspect that you expect to get. Then you pop over to the Bruce Willis, Megan Fox agenda. They have horrible chemistry. All their dialogue feels like it's their rehearsals, not their performances. Like they're just going through the banter to, okay, we got to remember this. And it feels like two separate movies. That one's heavy and one wishes it could be something that it's not. You know, maybe even television series level.
Mm-hmm.
They're still not even that good. And then when they come together, it just becomes this jumbled mess because there's a bunch of horrible decisions. There's a bunch of things that don't make sense. There's characters that they almost like they want you to believe know things or involved in things, but they do nothing with them. There's other elements of things that are introduced that serve no purpose.
And I think if they had, like you were thinking this the other night, if they had made a real connection between the two stories, like really connected them, it might have worked out better. But
I'm going to just say, I don't care. I'm throw the spoilers up. So I'm not going to spoil the whole movie because if you want to watch it, but had they changed the reasoning, got rid of the FBI side of it, but kept Megan Fox, changed her reasoning for why she's trying to stop these rapes, then her connection would have made more, or murder, excuse me. The connection would have made more sense.
If they had connected her to that story.
Like a personal connection with some of the missing people or done something and just got rid of, I'm an FBI agent, because they tried to also infuse the whole thing of, you know, you're going to get us fired or you're going to get in trouble because you're not supposed to be on the case, you know, and they do that. That's always one of those things they like to throw in like thrillers because it makes you like a bad cop or then you can save the day. In this one, there was no consequence. It was other than you're just going to get me killed. There's like a whole diner scene that's just like, you want to know why I'm leaving? Because you're going to get me killed. You're dangerous. And then he leaves, and I'm like,
okay. Because he does. It never comes back.
Yeah, we never see him again.
I was like, peace out.
And all of a sudden, her and Emil Hirsch are friends.
Yeah, which makes no sense because you know the FBI and the local cops never work together.
No, but I can see that the meshing up to work together. But they don't do anything to make them work together.
Then the other side story, I'm going to spoiler alert, is Emil Hirsch's wife, which
I set up this big Jesus thing.
I get why she's there. Like, you're here, honey, to help those hopeless little girls. But then she's called, why aren't you at home? Why aren't you at home? You told him to go help these girls that are being murdered. But you want him home. I am so confused.
And he's literally in the middle of holding a suspect. And she's like, I need you to come home. We miss you. And he's like,
the baby's sick.
He's like, honey, I'm late. I'm on the case.
But she had the worst Southern accent. Like, baby, you need to come home right now because this baby's sick. I'm like, oh my God.
I think here's what's going to be funnier. If it's
horrible.
It'll make you laugh.
And then there's another little girl, like the little girl in the movie. Horrible. Never worked with children. She was horrible.
She looked like
a young version of What's her name?
She looked like this girl that was in one of these horror films.
But she was horrible.
But yeah, because her lines were off.
She's like, I saw somebody, but how could you see them? They weren't even walking.
Yeah, she talks about seeing somebody while the person's like that was a continuity issue. Is what that was. Somebody should have shot a shot of this person running through the field and then getting down. We don't see if it did happen because she's looking. She goes, somebody's running through the field, but it's grass. It's 4 or 5 feet tall. It's the
switchgrass.
Yeah, and there's no way she could see anybody,
guys.
And then there's another scene where
I really wanted this to be good.
So when she looks in that hole.
That happened later, right?
No, that happened. No, that happened early on.
She heard it, but
they made it seem like she saw something.
Correct.
Then when you see the setup, like, okay, she had to have heard something.
She heard it,
but she says nothing to anyone.
No.
Like she's like, oh my God, and she's got this look like she discovered something. And then the mom's like, Ma, come in to eat. She goes, okay, come in, Mommy. And then that's the end. And it's like,
I'm just telling you.
There's too many things in this.
I really wanted the story itself is good. I think we could redo this movie with some different actors.
It wanted to be clever,
and it would be good.
Oh my God, it is her. That is the funniest thing ever. I got to tell you,
the lady with the horrible accent.
Yes. So this is Jackie Cruz.
Okay, Jackie Cruz.
Who is from Orange Is the New Black. She plays Flaca.
Oh,
she's Hispanic, and she is super Hispanic in Orange Is the New Black, like. You know, like the hardcore cholo. I can't do that impression of a female cholo, but
yes.
So when I saw her, she got a bad wig on. When I saw her, I was like, "Is that her?" And I'm like, then she started, "You're doing it for the children." I'm like, "Oh my goodness,
guys, just yeah." I mean, if you can see it somewhere for free, it pops up on your TV. Watch it.
That's her.
Otherwise,
that's not who's in that movie.
No, otherwise, I mean. I wouldn't spend too much time.
It's pretty bad. If you want to watch it just because you want to see just a train wreck.
Somewhere for free, like on your TV. But that's that. Sorry, we typically love everything.
Well, I don't love everything. I try to find the good in everything.
I can find the good is the weirdo guy was good.
Because Lucas Haas is always good. He plays a good weirdo.
Yeah.
Although he looks weirder now that he's an adult than he did when he was a kid.
I don't even know that. I
know
him.
Lucas Haas. He's been in a ton of stuff.
No, I know who he is in this, but
I mean, you've seen him in a ton of stuff. He was younger. He used to be a lot thinner. He had big old ears. Like
is that one?
Lucas? No, not Hasso. Lucas. Lukas.
Oh Lord.
Hass.
Oh my gosh.
HAA, I believe.
Okay. Anyways, continue on. Let's just move on to the next movie.
It'll be available on Blu-ray and DVD
I've
next
posted
week.
A link to our review on HollywoodMatrimony.com.
It is one of the few ones that I will tell you, don't decide for yourself. You should probably avoid it.
Okay. Sorry. We don't ever like to do that.
If anybody wants to know, like, oh, you diss movies because this is one they didn't see. They sent me this movie. It's just a bad movie. And I will tell you this.
The story sounded okay.
I feel horrible when I have to send a review to a PR people or a studio and tell them a movie because I feel guilty that they took the time to send me this movie and I got to tell them thanks for sending this to me, but it sucks.
You didn't say that though.
I didn't say it sucked.
You found that
but that's why I try. That's one of the reasons between that and working in the film industry, why I try to find because I know how much work it takes to make a film, and that's one of the reasons I always try to find a shining spot.
That's Emil Hirsch.
Yeah, Emil Hirsch is excellent in the movie, but I try to find a shining spot in any production outside of my just opinion because a lot of people worked on the thing.
Yes.
And one of the things I was telling you is I was reading an interview, I think it was with Charlize Theron, where she was talking about like Aeon Flux, which I was a huge fan of that animated.
I liked the movie.
The movie's awful.
No one else did.
Well, because the movie's horrible in conjunction with the animated series.
But I saw the movie before I saw the animated.
But she even thinks that movie sucks. Because she said, that is not the movie I thought we were making.
See, and that's the other thing.
And the problem is they said from the time you get the script, you read it, the production, the changes, things that don't work, the things that do work, the costume alterations, things that get edited or changed, or studio's involvement. A lot of times the movie they set out to make and the final product are not the same thing.
Correct.
You know, like Channing Tatum, from one of the things I read before, and I think he's changed his mentality before, but like he hates the original G.I. Joe movie.
No.
You know.
Well, we'll be talking about that.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a minute. But he's changed my thing because, again, it's not the movie he thought he was making or whatever. So you never know the end result. So I think in the case of this movie is one of those that Bruce Willis signed on because they're like, hey, they'll pay me. Megan Fox probably saw, hey, a tough, strong female lead.
Yeah, which is
Neil
good.
saw the emotion. This is all just me assuming this is the thing. Somebody's like, ooh, an interesting thriller crime story, twists at the end, but there's not really any. And then it just became a jumbled mess. And I normally would be like, Machine Gun Kelly, I was excited to see him. I'm not a fan of his music, but he was really good. He's the one that played Tommy Lee in the Motley Crue movie.
Yeah.
And he's really good in
that.
And so I was kind of excited to see him in something else. And he was another one that just seemed to be phoning it in. And I was more baffled because I was looking forward to seeing them two together because I know they're a real life couple thinking, okay, they'll have some good scenes because you have chemistry.
Right.
You would never guess that those two liked each other.
I didn't know anything.
Well, I'm just saying they have no chemistry on screen. Part of that's probably because he's not really a good actor, but she's not either. Anyway.
She's really not that much
don't
either.
Go into the Switchgrass.
All right, stay out of that. All right, next, you want to tell me about this?
Sure. Talk about a movie that's completely polar opposite.
Completely different movie.
So one of my all-time favorite movies is a movie that most people will not like. It is an acquired taste movie.
Very eclectic.
Yes, I'm very aware of this. It's a movie called Rubber. I never can say the guy's name right, but the director's name is Quentin Dubois. Duplex. I always say Duplex.
This
Dubois,
has to be Duplex because they're French, right?
Yeah.
Duplex.
So anyway, he made a movie called Rubber about a tire that kills people.
It is amazing.
It is an amazingly awesome movie that she has no business working. It's a movie I showed her expecting her totally to hate it and probably dump me for watching it. And instead, it got me to marry her.
That's something else.
Which one? Black Devil Doll? Bad Pussy? You love that movie.
It's so dumb. Black Devil Doll's horrible. Here's the thing, guys. I don't like stupid movies. This man loves dumb, weird, stupid movies.
And I'll tell you when they're horribly bad, and I just love them.
Rubber is good.
It is.
It makes no sense that it should make sense.
It's kind of artsy.
I'm going to post a link just so y'all can go watch it.
Rubber's kind of artsy,
sometime.
Ridiculous, exploitation
of a tire.
It could be a trauma film. It could be. There's a lot of elements to it that you either can buy into it and see its brilliance, or you can't stomach its ridiculousness.
It's ridiculous.
There's no gray area on that movie. You're
either gonna like it, you're gonna be like, "What the heck?"
So any movie he does, I'm immediately in to check it out. He did a movie called Wrong Cops a few years back as well. That was good, but it was okay. It didn't really work for me as well. I was more excited about it from the cover art, which was just the picture of a guy from this shot from here down, a police officer. But his uniform's pulled him, and he's just big fat man boobs, and his belly's sticking out. It's hairy. I thought it was funny, but the movie itself's okay. So his latest movie, which I was super stoked because it looked like it was going to be another strange, bizarre, weird, off-the-wall movie. It's called Mandibles. And this time it is a French film, where the other movies that he's done were not French films. They were American productions. This is a French film about two guys who, one guy's hired to deliver a suitcase to somebody. We don't know what's in the suitcase. You assume it's some kind of a crime drug thing or something. We don't know.
A drop.
And so he steals a car to make the delivery, and he's going to take his buddy with him. Well, in the trunk, they find a gigantic fly. I'm just going to let that sit there for a second.
How big is this?
This fly is probably the size of this table.
Okay, so giant.
It is like big around, like a dog.
Okay,
it's big. It's a big fly. And they decide, wait for it, one of the guys decides, screw the suitcase. We can train this fly to rob banks and stuff for us. Treat it like a drone. They can fly in, take what we want, and fly out, and nobody will even notice because who's going to connect us with this fly?
Smart idea, in a way.
So that's the idea.
Okay, that's the premise.
So.
All right, what actually happens?
I'm going to tell you this. I love this movie. It's not Rubber level.
Okay.
Okay. It is ridiculous, but way more normal than I expected from that premise. Because majority of the film is really, it's a comedy following these two guys and their nonsense. Like they're buffoons, you know, and you have one guy who's training the fly throughout the movie. Everything they do leads into another problem. You know, one thing that they basically steal some old man's camper, and they're trying to live there, so they can train this fly in the desert. So they're using dog toys, and I want to say the fly is awesome. It whoever's animatronic or puppetry of it, or however they did it, because it's physically there. It's not a CGI. Whoever did it, they've got its head. It's kind of doing that quick movements, like fly movements.
Yeah.
It's really cool. And I'm like, I want that big ass
Does it make
fly.
any buzzy noises? Or
I don't think it ever made any noise. It just was a lot of...
Okay.
It kind of like walk forward.
That's creepy.
And it doesn't fly because they duct tape its wings down so it can't get away. But they're training it with dog treats and like food, and they give dog squeaky toys. And so like one point he picks it up, it's just standing there like... And they're like, look, he's got it. And then it shifts into...
This is weird.
There's a bicycle that looks like a unicorn pulling a car at one point. I'm giving you the highlights. There's a moment where they end up going to stay with these rich people that were some friends of theirs. Mm-hmm. Or were they? And so then it becomes that mad thing of having to keep the fly hidden. And then you're not allowed to have a dog. So they have to find a dog so you don't find out about the fly. But then the fly might or may not eat the dog. And then there's this one lady that's got a brain injury. So when she comes in the room, the first time, there's no setup for half of this stuff. It just kind of starts happening. And the lady with the brain injury, the first time you see her, everybody's sitting around the table having a nice dinner, chatting, catching up old times. And also she goes, today we're having pickled onion. And she's screaming. You find out she has this brain injury. She can't control the volume of her voice. So the whole movie she screams. She's hilarious.
Oh my gosh, this sounds horrible.
It is one of those movies that's just so strange.
It sounds weird, man.
But it is, despite the premise, it's very normal buddy comedy.
Okay.
With that fly, because the fly stuff, I was actually disappointed that it was so normal.
Oh.
Because there's not enough of the fly.
Okay.
The fly, I'm not going to tell you because I think you should watch it if they actually are able to do anything with the fly. Because it's this big anticlimactic buildup, only be like, what? And then it has an ending that kind of makes you go, and that's it. So it's bizarre, it's weird, it's funny, it's silly, it's stupid. It's everything that Rubber is minus the gore and minus the brilliance. This is on par with Rubber, but not as good as Rubber.
I gotcha.
So if you like weird, silly movies in French, it is subtitled. Then
get over your subtitle problem.
The Mandibles is definitely one to check out. And it's only like an hour and a half, so it's not a long set. But if nothing else, it's just worth it to check out The Fly and watch this guy change the fly. This was another one that could fall in the world of trauma or full moon features.
It just sounds so weird.
It's bizarre and weird,
but that's what I thought about Rubber.
Fun all at once.
Oh well. Okay.
Anyway, it is in theaters. I believe theaters now.
Okay.
Limited release.
I'm making that face on the camera line. Sorry, I got to work on my face.
It is an acquired taste as well. I'm aware, but it is. Don't let the fly fool you. Don't let the fly fool you. It is a way more normal film than it appears to be.
Okay, there you go. All right, where do you want to go now? You want to go here?
Sure, why not? Because that was actually going to be a last week one.
Yes, we're a week behind on this one.
So this next one was one that I was super eager to watch. Okay. We were supposed to watch it before last week. We didn't get a chance to. It's one I didn't think you were going to want to watch.
I agree, because lately I haven't been digging him.
Well, not a lot of people have. The next one we're going to talk about is Nicolas Cage's latest movie, Pig. I love Nicolas Cage. I recognize that he's done a lot of crap movies. He's gone the route of Bruce Willis from our last discussion.
Phoning it in.
Where it's a lot of straight-to-video, straight-to-home release movies. They're very eclectic and strange and bizarre, and he's known for his hairstyles changing all the time. Over the last couple of years, he's actually put out some cool stuff with Wally's Wonderland that we love. Good. Mandy is great. Mom and Dad was fun. Color Out of Space was good. Jiu-Jitsu, which I love the movie because of martial arts flick. It's not a good movie, but it's a jiu-jitsu movie without any jiu-jitsu in it, but it's got Tony Jaa and whatever. I'm good with that. So this was another one I was kind of looking for. And then I'm kind of glad we saw it late after everybody else, because I started seeing some reviews of it, and people were coming out saying this is Nicolas Cage at his best in years. And I'm like, what? Because if you don't remember, Nicolas Cage has won like 1 or 2 Academy Awards for Leaving Las Vegas, and I think he was at least nominated for something else. I don't remember. So anyway, I'm still a fan of Nicolas Cage, but I do recognize that he's done a lot of trash. So why don't you tell everybody what Pig is about?
So basically, Pig, it's the story of this man that lives out kind of in the middle of the nowhere, and it's him and his pig. And his pig happens to be a truffle pig. And so they go out looking for truffles, and then it seems like a restaurant guy comes and buys truffles from him every week. That's what you need to know.
Yes.
Tragedy strikes, and someone comes and steals his dang truffle pig.
Yep.
And that's where our adventure begins.
There's no setup for it either. It just happens.
It just happens, but that's what it is. So the rest of the movie really is him trying to find out who took his pig, and he's like, "Give me back my pig." That's the movie.
It's another movie that sounds ridiculous. This is
However,
somebody made a statement, and it is accurate. Without the violence, because it's not an action movie. It has a couple action kind of fights in it, but somebody compared it basically saying this is John Wick with a pig.
Correct.
It's very much that idea without the high-end tech.
He's been nominated for a gazillion things.
I know he's nominated for a lot of stuff, but it doesn't have a ton of action and shootouts and stuff. But it's that same kind of mentality of this guy's whatever. So let's just say, what did you think of the film after seeing it?
I really enjoyed this movie because it's not. I don't want to spoil it. There's a reason why he's where he is. There's a reason why he cares so much about this pig. The story begins to slowly unfold. And it's really the story just about belonging, finding your passion, a little bit of loss and love, all wrapped up in the story of this man trying to find a pig. And it sounds absolutely ridiculous, but I think the most... what's the word? Like the thing you see on screen that's like so captivating and crazy and makes no sense, but at the same time it does at the end, is they come in and beat him up to steal the pig. And so he's all bloody and jacked up. He stays that way through the entire thing because he is so fixated on this pig. He can't stop for anything else.
And grimy because
he's dirty and gross. Yeah, and
he looks like a homeless person.
Yeah, basically. He forages in the woods. He sleeps in the bed with a pig. I mean, it's complete insanity. But once the story of his life starts to unfold, you get it and you start to understand. And that is the craziest thing to me, that I got all involved and wrapped up in the story of this man and this pig, which on the surface seems absolutely ludicrous, but it wasn't. It's actually a very deep, moving story.
It is. And
which you don't expect.
Yeah, because the movie, and he mentioned this in an interview I was reading about this movie, that he talked about this movie is really about loss. It's not just about him and the pig. It's other characters that are connected. And it's interesting because, to me, one of the most powerful moments in the entire film is a scene at the end, and there's no sound to it. It's like cut. You just see the physical performance. And had you add the sound to it, it would have been exactly the same thing, but it made it stronger without hearing it. And then it goes from that to kind of how it kind of comes full circle to the end of it all. And it's a movie that's, you can't help but like be engaged. It's like captivating. It really is weird.
And the other kind of sub story is, because it's about truffles and all this food stuff, it's a powerful story about food and the power of food.
Yeah, when I was telling her, I was like, this is like the dark version of Chef.
It really is, because, I mean, if you think about it, think about what is your favorite dish that you've ever had. You know, and you think about that, and there's yes, but see, when you think about that, there's a whole story. It's the ambiance where we're at, the flavor, like we can't get that here, and so you start to have all these memories and these feelings, and that's what this is about. And it sounds so dumb, a man and his pig.
Well, it's like I had the joy of getting to share that with you, because when I was in Thailand numerous times, there was a noodle cart that would come to the Muay Thai place I trained at, and there was a little restaurant that I'd always go to.
Yes.
And I couldn't stop talking. For years, I was telling her about, telling me it's this old lady, and she just cooks out of her house, and then there's this cart with these noodles. It's like fast food type, anything you would get at a Chinese food, but I'm telling you, it's amazing. You don't understand. She's like, okay, noodle boy, you know. And then when we finally went, got to spend time together while we were there. I got to take her to that restaurant. She's like, oh my God.
And that little lady, but like I can remember, like she's cooking so fast. She has one wok. She's cooking. She's done. She gets the water. She cleans it out, dumps it out, and she starts cooking again. And sparks are flying, and she's just cooking like the fastest ever. And then we were at the floating
market, and I'm like, we got to have some of these boat noodles. And you're like, I'm not going to eat boat noodles out of a boat. Like, just I'm telling you, this is it. This is what I've been telling you. We sit down and I remember, I'll never forget the look on your face. You didn't have to say a word. You took a bite, and in my mind, I'm like, I've been, what is the word? When I've been proven right, I've been justified with my years of telling you how amazing these are. Because you bite into them, you're like, I said, see, and then I'm like,
and even I think if we tried to buy, like you try to buy them here, it's not the same.
It's not
as having that little old lady on a boat. I don't know if she uses dirty water. Who knows what it is? But those were like the best noodles. And then you're there with like a crowd of people just sitting eating like here on the side of the step, and it is like the most amazing experience.
Yeah, and people are eating next to you, and they're just all like,
you know,
it's like, these are my chopsticks. That's what
but that's what this movie brings to your mind. And you just see,
and there's not a lot of cooking in the movie. There's some moments, but it's the connections to food that bring bigger pictures to other things in the movie.
Correct.
Because there's a whole issues with dealing with family issues, with loss and betrayal,
and even restaurants and people finding their real passion.
There's even an interesting dark underground chef bum fight weird thing. That I love. None of this is explained.
No,
it just exists. This is the kind of movie, and I'm pretty sure it's not going to get this kind of acknowledgement. This is the kind of movie that I honestly think Cage would deserve to be nominated again for an Oscar for. This might fall on my top 10 of the year because it's
really good.
It's such a good movie, but it's dark. It's the kind of movie that most people may not connect with because it is strange. It's very much, even though it's a complete opposite ideal and direction, it's very much the kind of movie like Parasite. Where it's very much about
you got to stick with the story,
the environment, and the characters and the dialogue. Nicolas Cage doesn't say a lot in this movie, but his visual performance, and it's interesting because one of the thing I was reading about him saying that one of the reasons he did this movie was because he wanted to remind people he could give a realistic performance because he does so many bizarre things, you know.
He does
that
some
people
weird
just kind
things.
Of pigeonhole Nicolas Cage into the weird.
He's that weirdo guy
because he is kind of eclectic in real life.
I know, but this is really just about love and loss and
fun facts that I read about this when we were watching the movie, and I just wanted to tell because I think they're hilarious, or not hilarious, but they had little to no budget for this movie. Right? They shot the whole movie in like 20 days.
Oh wow!
Right? And because their budget was small, they couldn't hire a trained pig.
Oh.
So they just had this pig that they had 3 days to train the pig. And they said the pig bit Nicolas Cage numerous times.
Oh, my God.
And one of his quotes from it was saying, you know, he was joking that he had been set on fire and he's been flipping cards. He goes, but he's going to die of sepsis from getting bit by this pig.
Yikes.
But anyway, I love this movie.
It's really good.
It's not a kind of movie you can watch over and over. It's one that you watch and then maybe revisit it later. But it'd have to be a while. It's not a back-to-back. But it's such an unexpectedly great movie.
It really was.
Because I expected to walk in, it was going to be some weird creature thing, or Nicolas Cage acting like, woo, Nicolas Cage. And
I didn't know. It's just pigs. I'm like, is he dressing up like pigs?
You were even almost irritated that I was making you watch it when we started. Yes. You're like...
And then by the end, I'm like kind of crying about this dang pig.
And then it's one of those... Okay, so what happens... She may not know this happens sometimes, but when I'm watching a movie that I don't think she's overly interested in...
Are you watching me?
I watch her to try to figure out if I'm going to yell at...
You're losing me.
Or if it's going to be like when we finish watching the Murder in the Switchgrass. When she ends it, she goes... But she doesn't tell me because she also doesn't know what I feel about it.
Yeah.
And we're very kind of polite about... If I love something and you love something, we let it discuss first, and then we'll go back and tell you your opinion's trash. Yeah. But she was just like, and I looked at the Switchgrass one. I'm like, it was something too. That was a mess, wasn't it? And then the sparks start flying. But anyway, Pig is so good, but it is another one that's.
So when you were watching me, I was okay.
But then sometimes it's hard to read you too because.
Because there's one scene where there's a meal and someone has a real.
Not Emil Hirsch.
No, a meal, a food, a serving meal, and someone has an emotional reaction, and I'm like, I that's when we start talking about like these food is memories. Like to me, like my best meal ever is my grandmother's enchiladas, rice and beans, and I'll never get that again. So to me, that makes me sad, and I'm gonna cry about it. I know, but I'm just saying that's the kind of powerful thing that food has. And so this man with his truffle pig, and now his pig's gone, and that's like the emotional state we're in throughout the whole thing.
Yeah, because it's not always, and I think people forget sometimes that your memories are connected to food, even if it's not a food memory.
Right.
You know, like
Smells.
I have this whole, my grandmother who's no longer with us either. I had this whole memory of I was a little chubby kid all the time, and she was always trying to put me on a diet when I was at her house. Gosh. And I remember her putting me on. I've told you about this before. I remember her putting me on this tuna diet she did, and she made this tuna chili, which sounds disgusting.
It does.
And it was amazing.
Really. And
for years, I had been trying to get that recipe, and she suddenly acted like she didn't know what the hell I was talking about years later. And it's not like it was a one-time thing. We had it numerous times.
I have to go look that up.
And so I've never found it again, but I can remember having what I thought was going to be the most disgusting thing. And I'm like, this is amazing. And the same thing with my grandfather, I told you the other night, used to pour like orange soda on his ice cream. I was like, that is disgusting.
He's making orange sickles.
And it's not even I don't remember the taste of the Fanta but I remember the moment with my grandfather, and that was something he did,
So that's the movie Pig. That's what you're going into. It's really good.
It is dark.
Where can I watch it?
I believe it's one that's like currently like on limited release. Hold on, I usually
on the line.
I usually put it at the end of the review. Let me double check.
Oh, I had it pulled up right here.
It is one that is
check out Pig now.
In limited theaters release right now.
Okay,
but be on the lookout on demand and digital, that stuff, because movies like this, it's probably more limited release, so it'll probably hit that sooner than later.
Okay.
And I hope it gets sooner, because it's a movie I hope people watch.
Where do you want to go? Do you
That's a great poster too.
It is.
It's crazy.
It's crazy. Do you want to go here or here? One or two.
I don't care. Let's go to the pink one, because it's not as heavy. Because we just had a heavy discussion.
Okay.
You were crying and shit.
I was. I got emotional about food because I love food.
Yeah, we can do it.
Got a little
belly, sister.
All right. This next movie is available now on Amazon Prime. It is a movie called Jolt. And who's in it?
Kate Beckinsale.
Okay.
Stanley Tucci.
Yep.
Jai Courtney.
Yes, I didn't remember his name. And she's not a vampire. That's all you need to know.
Here's the thing.
That's what I expected.
Here's the thing is, I wrote this in the review, that Kate Beckinsale has already kind of established herself ability to carry action through the underworld films. Whether you love them or not,
she can move.
We love them. She can carry an action film. She's not Megan Fox. So
I wasn't going to say it, but I'm glad you did.
It's called connecting the stories of what we're discussing.
Yeah, it's all
direct bash at Megan Fox.
No.
It's part of the dialogue we're having.
Okay. And it's not like Megan Fox is ever going to listen to our thing.
I don't think I ever watched the trailer. Did we watch the trailer for this? I don't think
I don't think we ever did.
I knew about it. I kept getting promotion stuff. I posted the trailer. I just never really paid attention to it. But I knew I wanted to watch it because I like Kate Beckinsale. But she doesn't do enough of these kind of movies. She does a lot of romantic comedies or
I think maybe when we saw the initial thing, we're like, oh, it's like that other movie. But yeah, the female version of Crank is what we thought.
And it kind of is, but in a completely different way.
Yeah.
So before we talk about the story, why don't you tell them what the story's about?
So basically, she has an anger management issue.
Big time.
There's a medical reason why. And it causes her to go like on rampages and really hurt people.
Yeah.
So they come up with a therapy, like kind of an electroshock therapy, where she can shock herself when she feels that murderous rage bubbling up. She kind of shocks herself. That's the Jolt.
Yeah, she's wearing a thing in the little clicker.
Little clicker thing.
It's almost like a dog training clicker.
Correct.
But instead it shocks her so that she kind of, it's almost like slap you or make you pay attention. Calm down.
Correct. Right.
So it's kind of another one of those, you have to kind of buy into the technology.
You just have to go with it. Go with us on this journey.
You buy into the technology, and then everything else beyond that is fine.
Yeah, everything's fine.
What did you think of the movie?
I really liked this movie. It had no business working because the premise is absolutely stupid, that you should just shock yourself all the time. And yeah, I liked it.
The reason this movie works is it knows it's ridiculous.
Yes.
There's no sugarcoating what it is.
Yeah, and there's some kind of funny-ish moments.
It's kind of Grindhouse.
Yeah, because when she does something, she'll have like a quippy line, and so she knows it's a ridiculous story, but we're in it together.
Yeah,
and I like that.
And I also like that we don't spend a ton of time with her doing a bunch of stuff, but there's a lot of those And I always love this in movies where if it's done right, where like if I'm looking at you, and I live this life a lot, where you start singing while we're having a talk, and all of a sudden I'm envisioning myself punching you right in your face.
Yes, that happens in this movie.
But then it doesn't. Then it comes back in real world. I'm just going, oh yeah, that's great.
Please don't punch me in the face.
It's those kind of things happen, and they do a lot of those, and that's how you keep being reminded that she could snap at any moment without her actually having to snap.
Correct.
And I think the best part of, because she's great in the movie, but I think the best parts of this movie for me is her relationship and her interactions with Stanley Tucci.
Yes.
Which is, he's like her therapist, doctor.
Her therapist, and also helping her with the electroshock
and
therapy.
What makes it work, and this isn't so much of a spoiler, is because anytime she comes to his office, he grabs a gun. Because he doesn't know which version of her is showing up.
Yeah, he knows she's dangerous.
And so he's always got the gun. He's like, which one? How are you today? What's going on?
Yeah.
It's just this, and it's just,
this dog is kicking me.
It's this caring, loving relationship, but they're not friends at all.
Nah.
And it's kind of a dysfunctional relationship, but it works because he really wants to help her. She doesn't trust anybody or doesn't think she can be helped.
Correct.
So then the film kind of takes a turn into what I thought originally was going to be all of like an hardcore action movie.
Yeah.
It's actually more about her love life.
Yeah, and an action movie.
And then, her love life infuses into...
So it's a romantic action film.
It is pretty predictable.
Yeah.
There are some twists and turns in it that if you don't figure them out, which they're kind of easy to figure out, then you'd be like, what? But if you do figure it out, it still doesn't really hurt the movie.
Yeah,
which is rare, because usually if you can figure out the twist, it kind of messes everything up.
This is good. I would watch this again. I might watch it again.
It is a ridiculous, fun movie that,
it's absolutely,
as you said, has no business really working. But because they don't take itself serious, they just go with it, and they look like everybody looks like they're having a blast, and they look like we're making a fun movie. We're going to make this ridiculous movie that people are either going to love or they're not going to love.
Correct. And in a weird way, it has potential for more stuff.
Yeah.
Because, at the beginning, she's telling her story as a young person growing up. And, so we could have a story about young her learning about why this is happening to her.
But it also ends with
and we could have a story about her something else.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's craziness.
It's one that's hard to talk a lot about because you don't want to give away some of the fun aspects. There's some great dialogue in this movie.
Oh, it's so fun.
Like she's quipping, and she gets to use her English accent.
Yes.
And so it even adds to it, because a lot of times we have to get American Kate Beckinsale.
Yeah, I'd rather have regular Kate Beckinsale.
And she's still sexy as ever.
She still looks really good.
She does. She's a little too thin for me, but that's okay.
That's okay.
All right.
I mean, how old is she now? In her 50s, maybe?
I don't know, but she needs to pull the jacket up on her shoulders. That's the only thing that drove me nuts in this movie. She wears a jacket in this one part of the movie, and it's hanging down on the side of her shoulders, and it was driving me nuts. I just put the jacket on.
I like Jai Courtney. He's pretty cool.
Him and everything, and this is probably the first thing that he just kind of is there. He's one of those actors that I don't think gets enough credit.
Okay.
He kind of gets just forgotten.
She's 48, so she's like your age.
He just seems to get forgotten about all the time.
Why? What is he known for?
Well, you knew him from Spartacus.
True.
He's also Boomerang in the Suicide Squad movies.
Oh, yeah, I don't like those movies. So that's why I probably forgot.
What? He's great.
It's okay.
Anyway, he's in the new one, too.
Anyways, there's a lot of good people that come in and out. I don't want to give it away because this guy's in there.
He's also one of the bad guys in Jack Reacher, the main assassin guy.
Oh, that's...
he's one of the bad guys in one of the Die Hard movies.
I gotcha.
Kind of like Bruce Willis in that mess of a movie, Murder in the Switchgrass.
Yeah. So there's some good people in this movie, and it's a good movie. It's a lot of fun. Action, romance,
this is a
little comedy.
Turn your brain off, have a blast.
Get some popcorn, have some fun.
That's right.
That's all you need.
An Amazon original, so if you have Amazon Prime, you can watch it anytime you want for free.
You can watch it over and over.
Just like we did on Amazon Prime.
There you go.
This is not a paid promotion.
But you should watch it.
It is a paid promotion, technically, because we pay Amazon Prime.
Yeah, so you should watch the movie Jolt with Kate Beckinsale.
Beckinsale. It still baffles me that she was married to Michael Sheen.
But I like that werewolf Michael Sheen.
I like Michael Sheen. I just never have understood.
Werewolf Michael Sheen was cute.
He's got he looked like Rob Zombie.
Yeah. Well, now he's chunky because he's the doctor in this other show that got canceled, and I hope it gets picked up.
I know, but he's one of those guys that he's like this generation's Robert Englund.
Yeah.
Where like Freddy Krueger and all this stuff, he's just crazy. Then you see him, he's like, hello there.
Yeah.
But then he dated Sarah Silverman for a long time. He scores the poon. He's got something about him.
All right, we're moving on.
All right, sorry.
We're moving on to another movie. This one is a little bit heavy, so I'm going to warn you now.
This was a baffling trailer when I saw it. We're talking about the movie Joe Bell, which is based on a true story. The reason it was baffling, not because there was anything weird about the movie. It's a very straightforward movie. But it was just weird seeing Mark Wahlberg in this kind of movie. And I'm glad we did, because I think this is going to turn into our normal Mark Wahlberg discussion with you.
I have a love-hate relationship with Mark Wahlberg.
And I love Mark Wahlberg. I recognize that he's probably a douche in real life, but I look at that as the business side of what he does. I also understand he's from Boston, and he was Marky Mark, the tough guy rapper as well. But we're used to nowadays Mark Wahlberg as the action guy. It's always an action movie,
Correct.
or at least an action thriller or something like that. And this is the polar opposite. And before you go into what's the story's actually about, I personally think one of his best performances he's given in years. I'm going to say it right here. So what is this movie about?
So this movie is a true life story of this man, Joe Bell, who's doing a walk across the country to New York in honor of his son, who suffered a lot from bullying. Do we say what happened to him?
Let's not say, even though this is a true story, you can look it up and find out exactly everything that happened to everybody involved. But we'll talk about it as bullying because of him being a homosexual.
There you go.
What's interesting is there's multiple layers here in the way it's shot. Is you have the journey of Joe Bell and his walk, and the people he meets and the things he goes through in his own. This walk is not only a walk for bullying, it's his own reflection of himself and his life and the things he did right and the things he did wrong. And then at the same time, you get flashbacks of everything that led up to why he took the walk.
Yeah.
And so you get a great performance from, I don't know the young man's name.
I'm looking it up right now.
What's his name? That plays his son.
Jaden Bell, Reed Miller.
Yeah, who you get to see him dealing with his stuff. And then you get to see, like, the Joe Bell character that Mark Wahlberg plays here isn't a hateful person.
No,
which
not
I
at
was
all.
expecting.
Very nice.
I think because I knew the story, but I didn't know the details of the story.
Yeah.
But I thought it was maybe one of these guys that turned on him because he was gay and then he felt guilty and whatever. But it's more like, I don't know how to deal with this mentality.
Yeah.
And then regret for not dealing with certain
correct. Things. And I guess that's kind of to me, is the heartbreaking part of the story is, well, I kind of said it without saying, he's doing this walk in memory of his son. And when his son comes to him and tells him, I'm being bullied, he's like, well, just hit him. He's like, Dad, it's not that easy. They go back and forth. And finally the kid's like, Dad, it's because I'm gay. And his dad, you can tell, doesn't know it. So he's like, so, and the mom's like, he wants to hear you love him. He's like, of course I love him. He's my son.
And it's all in the midst of what's important part of that scene. It's all in the midst of them fixing to watch a big football game on their new TV.
Yeah.
And so he's like, okay, are we done here?
I want to watch the game.
Dismisses it.
And I don't think he didn't mean to be dismissive. He just honestly didn't know how to.
He was being supportive.
He was being supportive, but didn't want to be overly emotional.
Without being supportive at all.
Because he's one of your typical, like, just good old boys who doesn't know how to tap into that emotional center of being a man.
He doesn't share emotions.
Correct.
The idea of, like, I don't need to tell you I love you because you know I love you.
Yes, exactly.
And we don't need to discuss your issue. I get it. This is your problem. This is.
It's like, I support you. What's the big deal?
You. Now we move on like you're not actually gay or not really happy.
But throughout the story and throughout his walking, he starts thinking back to it. And so in a way, like you said, I think he felt like maybe he should have done more.
Yeah.
But he didn't know how.
Yeah.
And
well, it's interesting because I'm watching, totally not related, but it happened in the same week. Is I just finished watching the first season of this show called The Upshaws, which is on Netflix, and it's a comedy sitcom with Omar Epps and Wanda Sykes and Tootie. What's her name?
I'm trying to think.
They don't
the
say her
credits.
name.
No, but Tootie. I'm trying to read the credits. Oh my gosh.
Anyway, it's the girl that played Tootie. I forgot her. I apologize, adult Tootie. But there's a scene in that there's a character that's gay in the show, and he comes out,
oh, Lord,
because he's afraid to tell his dad that he's gay. He tells his dad he's gay. His dad's like cracks a few jokes. Kim Fields, thank you.
Thank you, Kim Fields.
He cracks some jokes about it. And then his son's getting all upset, and he's like, "No," he goes, "I'm just not good at this talking stuff." He goes, "I love you, and I love you." It was a very much same thing, but in a comedy aspect.
Yeah.
And then a few minutes later, the mom was like, "Oh, you said you're okay with it?" He goes, "I'm not okay with this. I don't know what to say. I didn't know what else I was supposed to say."
But that's what you're supposed to say.
This is here too.
You're supposed to say, "It's okay, I love you." It doesn't matter.
And then you got to deal with your own journey.
Yeah, you got to deal with your stuff. But the interesting
I had to deal with this when my best friend came out.
Yeah,
I just didn't give a shit. It was like, okay, whatever.
Yeah, that's your thing. I think, though, we see that he is evolving to, as he's remembering what he didn't do, as he starts speaking to people about bullying, he's evolving his message as well. Like, he's growing into it and he's figuring it out himself.
Yeah, because it's interesting. There's some of the messages he gives is like, listen to your kids. Don't do this. It's real. Thank you. And he doesn't really say anything.
Correct.
And then the next one, like you're saying, it evolves into longer speeches and discussions and what he did and didn't do. And none of them, I like that they didn't make him this elaborate, well-spoken speaker.
Mm-mm.
It's this guy who has no idea what he's doing.
Nope.
But this is the only thing he knows to do to try to make amends for himself, his son, and try to call out the problems that people are having in relation to all these things.
Yeah. Is this a spoiler?
No, I mean
only because you were telling me he doesn't do.
No, I don't think it's really a spoiler that he's here. I think he's in the trailer.
Okay. Well, one thing that was interesting that both of us noticed was Connie Britton was not looking like the Connie Britton I think I'm used to seeing.
I'm thinking they aged her for the movie.
So that was happening.
She's supposed to look like she's dealing with stress and trauma.
She is. Lieutenant Dan shows up in this movie, Gary Sinise. And you were mentioning to me he doesn't do much acting anymore. He does a lot of philanthropy and fundraising for wounded warriors and for police officers and all these things. And it's interesting because he shows up as a police officer that finds Joe Bell.
It's a very small, very important role.
Joe Bell on the side of the road. He's like, "What are you doing here?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, I've heard of you. I saw your website or whatever." And his thing is important because in a way he understands Joe's mission. He's like, yeah, I lost someone too. So, they bond on that. And then, something else happens. Stuff happens. And so by the end of this movie, I was just like.
I highly suggest if you don't know the story, don't look up the story.
I'm glad I did not
Watch
know
the movie
anything
first so you can let that story unfold so you really get the full effect of the movie. Because one of my issues for this movie, and it's not an issue, it's my issue, was there are some elements that I felt lack of impact.
They should have just gone there.
Of both of the situations, that were probably the two most impactful moments. And it's not because they didn't handle it right. They probably handled it the proper way.
I know, but they should have gone there.
I don't even think they needed to go there. I think the problem was, and again, this is a me problem. It didn't take away from how good the movie was.
Good. It's a good movie.
I also think we're so jaded to getting to see everything.
Yeah.
That if you don't see it, you don't care. And I think with this one, because you're telling two stories, you can't really spend a lot of time there. Plus, it takes it in a place that maybe younger audiences wouldn't be able to watch it.
True.
And in the way they handled it,
probably it was best.
This is actually more of an all-age movie.
It is.
Even though it's heavy and it's hard to watch material, and there's some discussions that you probably don't want your kids to have. Gay or not, bullying is something that's an issue. And there's a lot of people, like even you for a long time, didn't understand the bullying thing. You were like, just hit them. You had the same Joe Bell mentality.
I mean, because that's how I was brought up, which I now know is not probably the right answer.
Sometimes that is the right answer for a lot of times. Sometimes you don't understand the situation they're dealing with. You don't understand the emotional effects it has, what they're dealing with at home on both sides. Because sometimes, not to justify their bullying, but sometimes the bullying people are because they're being abused at home. And that's the way they treat other people.
Well, and I think the other thing, too, our mentality and probably his father's mentality just hit him, is also like 30 years ago when there was no internet and social media.
Yeah.
So the bullying doesn't just happen when you're at school. It's constant.
Yeah.
It is continual.
Back then, if you got bullied at school, then you had a full day or even a weekend away from that when you got at home. Then you go back the next day, and you may or may not see them at school the next day.
Correct. But
now that the internet and the
social media and people texting you or Snapchatting you things that disappear.
And
you
there's,
never know.
There's elements I like. I thought was funny from you because there's a couple of moments that also spark discussions of, I agree with what this person wanted to do, and I would have done this. But then you have to think about how it would affect the rest of the family or everybody else involved, and it makes it worse by doing what you think is right. And there's so many layers. Ironically, I found, and it kind of connects to this kind of idea because, we all talk about if you have kids or a wife or best friends or whatever it is, if something was to happen to you, my first thought is I'd kill everybody in the room. Yeah. Right?
Thanks, babe.
But
don't do that.
I have to think about my parents, my students, my kids, my grandkids, your family, everybody else that's affected by my one action.
Just shoot them all in the leg.
So
they can't run away.
A video popped up not long ago I was telling you about that was at an MMA school. It's this old man talking, and he was an old boxer, I think, and he was talking about the most important elements of self-defense and the most important elements of fighting is not the fight initially, but what is the ramification of you being in that fight. And he talked about hitting somebody in the face in defense of your girlfriend or whatever, the guy falling and hitting his head on a planter, killing the guy or brain damage to the guy, and then the guy that punched him, who was in defense and in the right, ends up now having to go to jail for 6 years for involuntary manslaughter, all because he couldn't walk away. Yeah. Now that's a different discussion if somebody's choking me. Yeah. Then you use whatever force you have to survive and you deal with the consequences. Like if I come home and somebody's beating the snot out of you, I will destroy someone first, and then I will find out if I'm going to jail or not. Yeah, don't do that. I'm fine going to jail if I stop somebody from destroying you, unless it was a justification to destroy you, like you hadn't had my sandwich ready or something.
Well, that's why in my head I'm like, I'm just going to shoot everyone in the leg so you can't run away while I call the police.
Well, you got to wait till September because if you do it right now, you get in trouble for not having a gun permit.
True.
But in September, Texas, you don't have to have it anymore.
Yeah, because we're crazy people. So sorry.
Anyway,
no, I know.
It's a heavy movie. I think it's one of the more important movies that come out in a while because
I was crying.
It's relevant. It's dealing with issues that sadly we shouldn't have to deal with, but we do.
It's too much.
And it's more levels of tragedy than you might think.
Yeah,
if you don't know the story.
Well, it just anytime anything like this happens, it has ramifications for everyone else and everyone that knows these people.
And I knew how the story
never isolated.
I knew how this story kind of ended. She did not.
I didn't know. And I was just like,
I didn't know if they were going to go there, and they did. And you were like, well, that's depressing. It's like everything that happened. So check out Joe Bell. It's in theaters now. I don't think it's on any digital.
Yeah, you need to go watch it, though. It's important. Take your family. Stop the bullying.
That's right. Stop the hate.
All right. We talked about that. Yep, we're to here.
All right. So one of the big movies this weekend, which was not the big #1 movie this weekend, I was surprised to find out, ended up being Old, which is new M. Night Shyamalan Ding Dong's new movie that we didn't get a chance to see.
I want to see that so badly. Maybe we can go after this.
You can try if you want to.
Okay.
But before we talk about the latest, is Snake Eyes G.I. Joe Origins. It is a reboot. It is not a sequel to the other two G.I. Joe movies. So I don't think we're going to dive heavily into these unless you just want to. We can talk briefly.
Have general comments.
But I will tell you, we'll make some general comments about them. But Paramount, in celebration of the new movie coming out, has released both the original movies on 4K for the first time. So you got G.I. Joe: The Rise of Cobra and G.I. Joe: Retaliation, both hitting 4K this past week, I believe it is. So I guess we can talk about them.
The best one is the animated movie.
Yes, the old one. Yes, that is the best G.I. Joe of everything.
So with the first one, I'm going to agree with Channing Tatum and his initial reaction. It's not that good a movie, honestly.
It's not. This is another one of those guilty pleasure, cheesy fun. I like this movie, but I like it because I'm getting to see G.I. Joe people come to life.
Correct.
I recognize it's not that great a movie.
Yeah. It's all right.
Storm Shadow and Snake Eyes are the highlight of the movie. Some of the most annoying stuff is the changing look of Cobra Commander's mask and Destro for no reason other than let's do it.
It's so weird.
And they're such simple designs, it makes no sense.
It's literally a this with the thing on.
Yeah, or even easier, you put the hood on his head. They didn't want to put the hood because they thought it looked too much like the Klan. So I get that.
But you just round it.
I get that. Put the dome. The dome's not
Dome
hard.
with a little cloak head.
So, anyway, the new 4K edition looks great.
Yeah, looks great.
I feel bad for Marlon Wayans because I thought he was good as Ripcord, and then he got the shun and didn't even get asked to come back to the second one.
Yeah, so we watched that. Then we went and watched Snake Eyes. Then we watched this one.
We came back to watch this because we ran out of time.
Time.
G.I. Joe Retaliation, which is when they brought in The Rock, is Roadblock.
Yeah.
Which, in a little trivia news, the guy, I don't remember the character's name, but the black guy that's in this one, that's the other big guy.
Yes.
I forgot that character's name. Anyway, he's Roadblock's cousin.
Okay.
And in the original movie, this one, they actually offered the role of Roadblock to Common, and he turned it down. But by turning it down, it gave them a chance to bring in The Rock, Dwayne E. Johnson. At the time this movie came out, I think he had just done his first Fast and Furious, so he became known as the guy that saves franchises.
Oh.
So they brought him in.
This guy?
Yes, Heavy Duty. Yes.
Heavy Duty.
Yes, I believe that's
Adewale Akinyoja Abaje. I like him.
He also played Killer Croc.
He's a nice guy. I can imagine he is a nice man. I don't know why. I just imagine
he's one of the most vicious characters in Oz. He was the one that had the little hat that never fell off. It was always. Did you watch Oz?
No.
He had this little toboggan.
I know you loved it, though.
He had this little toboggan type hat that kind of rolled up.
Did he have it clipped in, maybe?
He's bald. What's he clipped in?
Maybe he had toupee tape.
It sat. He's in prison.
He had it taped.
It sit like this, and it was only like this big around, if I remember. A little short thing. He put it on, and it was always sitting on top. The whole show, I'd be watching, there's white supremacists, and there's shankings, and there's violence, and prison rapes, and I'm like, the dude's hat's going to fall.
No, he had it taped down.
Never fall off. Anyway, I love him. But anyway, so we got the second one. We also added Bruce Willis when he did try, and he played John Colton, I think is his name, who is actually, I don't know if you know this, but he was supposed to be the original G.I. Joe doll character.
Yes, that was he. He was the original Joe.
Yeah. And then we got more Snake Eyes and more Storm Shadow, and we got Jinx, Firefly, another one of my favorites, which is Ray Stevenson. What did you think about the second one?
I liked this movie, and I feel like it actually helped that I watched Snake Eyes before this. Because then, for me, it helped with the whole.
Oh, you understood some of these characters.
Who the heck is Storm Shadow and this? So it gave me a little, even if it may not connect directly.
Yeah, it doesn't connect. And the stories
but at least in my head, it's like, oh, I know who some of these people are, and I'm remembering.
Hardmaster and Softmaster.
Because the only thing I know about G.I. Joe is the cartoon and the theme song and the little cartoon movie. But this is good, and Bruce Willis is awesome in this.
He's actually good in this one. This is diehard Bruce Willis level.
Yes, this was a good movie.
He got mad.
First one not so much, but this one, yes.
Okay, so those are both on 4K. So now we're going to dive into Snake Eyes. They decided to do this was meant to be a soft reboot of this franchise.
Oh.
And they were supposed to do a third one. And for whatever reason, it never happened.
Okay.
And The Rock has stated many times that he would be glad to come back and play Roadblock.
Okay.
They also killed off Channing Tatum at the beginning of this movie. And I don't know if they killed him off because Channing Tatum didn't want to do them, which sucks because him and The Rock were great together in this movie. It would have been a way better movie, I think. Cobra Commander looks like Cobra Commander in this movie.
Yes.
They said, screw you, Destro, stay gone. So, but they intelligently left Baroness out of the second one because they didn't have Destro. If you don't have one, you don't have the other.
Exactly.
So anyway, so the new one, again, was yet another reboot. This time they fully ignored these two movies.
Correct.
We go straight on to the most popular G.I. Joe character of all time, Snake Eyes. Yes. He's always
What
been
about
popular.
G.I. Joe?
Nope, it's always been Snake Eyes.
What about the guy with the cigar? Isn't that cartoon?
What are you talking about? So you just did the
wrong.
Marx Brothers. What are you?
I'll go look it up. Continue.
You're talking about Sergeant Slaughter?
Yes.
Because he's in G.I. Joe.
That's who I'm
made
thinking.
him an actual character. Did you know? Also, I read. I don't know if this is actually true or not.
Yeah.
But
that's my favorite
Sergeant
character.
Slaughter actually said that originally they wanted him in the movie, and they ended up using Bruce Willis instead of him.
Okay.
I'm like, nobody would have wanted Sergeant Slaughter in that movie. Maybe a walk by in a cameo, but nobody would have wanted Sergeant Slaughter laying in the back of that El Camino shooting a machine gun. But no, you can't do it.
Anyways,
I love you, Sergeant Slaughter, but you are not a good actor, and you are not in the shape you need to be. Anyway,
Is he still alive? Is he still with
still
us?
alive.
Oh, okay.
He doesn't look like it, but he's with us.
All right. Snake
so
Eyes.
the new one, they decided to reboot the franchise once again, but this time going with the G.I. Joe Origins element of Snake. Are you okay? Going with Snake Eyes and did the controversial thing of giving us Snake Eyes' origin, which has only been told once, to my knowledge, in one of the Marvel comics, and it is not this movie.
Oh.
So it has caused a lot of problems. There has been numerous discussions, depending on which property you are aware of why Snake Eyes doesn't talk. In this series, he took a vow of silence after the murder of his master. I believe in the comic, he's disfigured and can't speak, and that's why he wears the mask all the time.
I see.
If I remember correctly. I haven't read it in years. He's also a blonde-haired white man in the original comics. And in this one,
which they did in this.
You don't see his face in this one, so you don't know, but you get the idea that he's a white kid, and it's Ray Park, who's an Australian man. So,
but in the flashback, you see the little
That's what I'm saying,
kid.
but that kid could potentially have some Asian in him if you really go by that kid the way he looks. But anyway, so the new movie, they cast Henry Golding as Snake Eyes, which I was fine with. I'm not overly purist of like he had to be a white man. I'm actually okay with him. And I like that in the movie, they never play up the mentality, is he white, is he Asian? He's just this guy. Right? I also know that this movie got a lot of flack right out the gate because we're seeing a bunch of Snake Eyes stuff with no Snake Eyes mask. And Snake Eyes is talking. Why are any of these things happening?
Because it's before. It's the origin.
And I get that. And I think a lot of people forget that in these stories, there's nothing that says Snake Eyes never could speak ever. He spoke clearly before the accident or the vow of silence, whichever version you want to go with. He would have spoken before that. He did, in fact, train with the Hard Master, Soft Master, with Storm Shadow. All that history is there. So, in my opinion, this movie isn't too far from the source material. It's just a new story.
Mm-hmm.
What did you think of the movie?
I really enjoyed it. I don't know anything about Snake Eyes at all, except what we saw in this. So, I understand the white guy aspect, but whatever. I have no allegiance to any property and any origin story. I was just there to watch the movie. Yeah, I was just there to watch the movie. I found it very interesting. I liked it. I think because, too, we have an affinity to the martial arts. So I like seeing a lot of him learning how to use the weapons, how to train, and just the mentality of what a martial artist is, and that the easiest fight is to not have a fight. Like there's one scene where he's like, do this. And it was so simple if he had just done it. So I liked it. I liked everything about it.
Can I just say I was super stoked?
I don't like everything about it. There's two things I don't like.
That they cast Iko Uwais to be Hard Master.
He's so good.
Do you remember what he's from?
He's from the crazy movie.
The Raid.
The Raid.
I was so stoked when they said they cast him and then find out he's Hard Master. But I was also worried that they weren't going to give him moments to shine.
He did.
And he doesn't get to shine as much as I hoped, but he does have plenty of little action moments to showcase. Nothing infuriates me more than casting somebody with that kind of ability and not using it. They've done that with Gina Carano in a couple of martial arts flicks where she showed up in Kickboxer. She shows up, remember, in the small cameo.
He didn't kick anybody.
Doesn't throw a single punch or kick, and then she's gone. And I'm like, well, why? Why are you here?
Like, that is dumb.
Just cast someone else.
Correct.
Don't cast a fighter and then not let him at least punch somebody.
Exactly.
This is not a discussion about Gina Carano politics. Okay, move on.
We know she's a little.
I love her. I'm a fan.
She's different. That's fine.
But she needs to shut her mouth. Moving on. All right. I'm with you. I really like
all the martial arts, all the training.
Despite it being kind of rushed in the training, and it's one of those elements that frustrates me as a martial artist, because I also have to remember that this is a movie, is the amount of training that suddenly happens.
Yeah, because in real life, it's like years of training to learn to be proficient.
But he also was kind of fighter at the beginning.
I guess.
But they never really discussed to say.
For a lot of the sword play, that's like years to become very proficient.
Especially in comparison to the people he's facing off against.
Correct.
But I also give him credit that he never really beat any of those people. So I really dug the elements involving just the history. This movie should have just been nothing but Snake Eyes. And it also serves as an origin of Storm Shadow of sorts. This movie should have stuck to that. With hints of the G.I. Joe world, it would have been way better.
Mm-hmm.
The problem, I think we both have the same problem, is
why the heck is Baroness in this movie?
My issue is not why is she in this movie. She just didn't need to be in this movie.
Like, why? That's what I'm saying. Why is she here?
Like,
because her boyfriend's not there.
Destro.
Yes. And then the other lady shows up. Like, why is
Scarlet makes more sense to be there because her and Snake Eyes have history.
But Baroness just doesn't make sense.
They're both in it and they're both wasted. It's like, had they done a bigger thing with them, as something more clever, or used them in a way that served a purpose for the story bigger, I think it would have worked.
Well, and Baroness's hair wasn't right.
No, her hair was
I'm sorry.
weird.
No. If you're going to put her in there, you got to do the glasses right, and you got to do her hair right.
The glasses were fine, I thought. I thought she looked fine, except that weird mop.
Like, it has to be here, and it has to be long.
Well, I would be fine even if they...
That's the only thing I know is right.
I know. I would actually be fine even if they'd given her short hair. But this hair, she had that messy...
She has to look like that.
No, I understand that. I'm not arguing with that point. I'm just saying...
It just didn't make
messy,
sense.
Weird hair that... Nothing about her said Baroness.
Not at all.
But it all screamed to the hair.
Yeah.
Because if you had put long hair, they could have kept everything else the same, and you'd be like, "Oh, that's Baroness."
I would have gone with it.
You know, Scarlet was fine, and I like the actress, that's Samara Weaving.
Yeah.
Who was from Ready or Not, and she's great in the role, but she doesn't really have anything to do.
I think she was there at an inopportune time. Yeah, she showed up at a different time.
There's a moment at the end of the movie that kind of sets up the future if it happens.
Yeah.
That would have been a perfect time for her to show up and have that one scene.
And be like, hey, this and this happened. Exactly. That's what I'm saying. She was there at kind of the wrong time.
Yeah, and she had just been for that one scene. And the same thing with the Baroness.
She's the one that people get confused with what's her name.
Margot Robbie, yeah.
Correct.
Like you called the poor Margot Robbie. She's like the Tom Hardy and that other guy.
Actually, I think she's Samara Weaving and the other lady's a poor Samara Weaving. Because I like her better than Margot Robbie.
Baroness thing was the same thing. There's an after credit scene that involves the Baroness. That should have been the scene for her.
Correct. There was no need for them to be throughout the movie here and there.
And they're not, they're just very small.
At different times, but it just doesn't make sense to me.
It put the brakes on the rest of the story that was happening.
Because I kept expecting the Baroness to do something cool, like, what's she going to do now? What's she going to do now? And then we kind of moved to another scene.
Some of the argument could be, well, you've got to have a few, something about G.I. Joe and something about Cobra.
But they did.
They did. There's crates of guns where you see the Cobra symbol, so you can say, okay,
you see that
this arms deal is about Cobra, and they have a discussion, okay, that's who Cobra is. We don't need to see those people yet. Because this movie was not about that. It was about Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow's relationship and evolution and how they become enemies of sorts. And all that stuff to me worked.
All that worked. It's
that G.I. Joe element that's
crowbarred in. It was too much.
And it doesn't feel like it served a purpose to be there.
The other thing that I really enjoyed about this movie is it had a very traditional, are they Japanese? I don't want to say the wrong thing.
Ninjas technically are, but...
Okay, it had that very traditional feeling, and you get into this place where it's very traditional buildings, everybody's traditional dress, the traditional customs of how you eat and do this, but infused with technology on the back end. And I was like, oh, this is cool. This is infusion of like very old school tradition and like modern technology.
Yeah.
I thought that was cool because it's like modernizing the thing. So then it has me wondering, are there like people like dynasty type people in those countries, but now we're like modern technology, but we're still following this traditional whatever.
It's the same world.
It's so cool.
Wolverine was in Wolverine when he went to Japan.
It's just so cool, man. I love it.
There's some clunky cuts. There's a few issues here and there. There's some of the early fights are shaky cam stuff that didn't work really well. But overall, I actually enjoyed the movie quite a bit. Again, it could be my just love for that character and the straight up martial arts love and that period piece looking stuff.
Yeah, it's very pretty.
I recognize it is a flawed film.
Yeah, there's stuff.
But there's a supernatural creature type element that's there that I don't want to kind of give away, but I've heard some people complain about that.
Oh, that made so much sense.
But to me, I'm like, this feels like
what it would be like.
Well, but it's a cartoon, it's a comic book. But it also feels like how some of these Asian films do weird crap like that. And
it just seemed epic.
Again, it throws in some predictable nature of it, but I'm like, I get it. I see its purpose. Does it need to be there? It's another scene that didn't need to be there. They could have done something way more.
Nah, but it was cool.
Straightforward. But it was a way to elevate it to say this is a bigger thing.
Yeah.
But again, I know hardcore G.I. Joe purists are going to hate this movie. I know
That's
they're
fine.
going to throw fits because they think they know everything.
So are there G.I. Joe people like your Star Wars people?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Sorry. To me, it was just a little
And they're
cartoon.
throwing fits about this.
Okay.
And some of them, they throw fits about these two movies too. So it is what it is.
That's okay.
So Snake Eyes, G.I. Joe Origins is in theaters now. Check it out.
I think that your general everyday people will like it.
I just,
Perhaps
if you watch it,
true fans probably won't.
I've said
That's
this on the
okay.
show a billion times, I'm sure. Part of me, on the movie critic side, I see the issues with all these movies. But my nerd side doesn't look at these things and say, you've ruined Snake Eyes, you've ruined Star Wars, you've made these trouble. I look at it and say, I'm excited they exist.
Yeah.
I'm excited that, no, this may not be the right one. It may not be the best one. Hopefully they'll get it right next time. But I'm excited that I can say, I'm going to go see Snake Eyes at the theater.
Yeah, like whoever thought that'd be a thing.
I
It's
remember
not
being a
cartoon.
kid playing with the Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow. I had all these G.I. Joe vehicles and trucks, and the two that I always had in my hand were Storm Shadow and Snake Eyes. I love Storm Shadow. I would rather have a Storm Shadow movie than a Snake Eyes movie. But I understand you don't have one without the other. And I was super upset when they didn't make the third G.I. Joe movie because Ray Park said they were going to bring in Timber, which is Snake Eyes' wolf. I was very excited, and none of that happened.
I just like the Baroness.
So
that's why I'm all over her
But
hair.
it's just one of those things. Like, Steel is with Shaquille O'Neal's a trash movie, but I'm happy the movie existed so I could see Steel on the big screen.
Yeah.
Once I'm done watching, I'm like, well, that movie's trash, but that's hilarious that somebody made that and thought it was okay, you know.
Yeah.
But I don't understand. Like, I even had we went to me and my buddy Scott. My buddy Scott, shout out to Scott.
Shout out.
He came into town. There was RetroCon. I think Ben Stevens put it on too. I believe. I don't know. But it was at this old center we hadn't been to in decades.
Yeah.
We used to, all the conventions we used to go to, the artists you set up. You know, it used to be the place where he goes. Did we meet him at Richardson or at Plano?
Richardson.
Was it Richardson? Anyway, he came into town. We went to this convention, and we were sitting there talking. We were in the line to do something. And Ben Dunn, who's one of the founders, he's the creator of Warrior Nun Ariella, which is a show now on Netflix. Shameless plug. He also is one of the founders, I don't know if he's still on or not, of Antarctic Press. And he was standing there. We were talking to him, and we were both wearing our 501st shirts. And he was like, he looked at Scott and me, and he kind of looked at Scott. He goes, so let me ask you this. What do you think of the new Star Wars trilogy? Like, he was trying to see where we stood. So Scott starts talking and doing his thing, and I just kind of randomly, I was like, I like them all. I recognize their problems, but if it's got Star Wars on it, I love it.
Yep.
I still think Phantom Menace is a weak movie. I still recognize issues. I don't like Mary Poppins part of Last Jedi, even though I love The Last Jedi. It's the fact that, and his response was, a Star Wars purist. Because I've seen him post about stuff that he hates, but he also understands my love is for the property, not every problem. And I'm not going to spend my time crying because I'm just happy another Star Wars came out.
Yeah.
Especially since we lived for years never thinking we'd ever see anything new from Star Wars again.
Yeah.
And now it's everywhere again.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
All right.
Before we leave, I do want to talk about one other thing that's not movie related, but is the new Netflix series.
Okay. Tell me.
Because it's also getting controversy, and it's also fan things, is the new Masters of the Universe series. It's called Masters of the Universe Revelation. I didn't know there was super amounts of controversy about this show until today, honestly, because I haven't kept up with it. I just knew Kevin Smith was bringing a new Masters of the Universe series to television, and the first 5 episodes are on Netflix now, and I'm going to tell you, it is awesome. I loved every episode. I love the story. I want you to see it, and I want to watch it again because that's how much I liked it.
Okay.
I've only watched the first 2 episodes twice.
Sarah Michelle Gellar is there, so I will watch it.
And here's the argument that everybody has. This is kind of a spoiler, but not a spoiler. It is a spoiler. He-Man is not in the show that much, but it's part of the story. It's not, and the issue is that people seem to have, how do you make a He-Man show without He-Man?
It doesn't say
The
it's
title is not He-Man, it's Masters of the Universe. If you go look at the original show was called He-Man,
and his
the
friends.
Masters of the Universe. This show is the Masters of the Universe, and it's a fan service series. It's bringing every figure that came out. Half of them never showed up on the TV show when we were kids.
Mm-hmm.
You get to see those. I don't care what anybody tells you. You will not convince me otherwise. I see people talking about, oh, this is just another forcing women empowerment down our throat. This is the Tila show. This is another one of this whole show is demasculating men. I don't know what show you watched, but if that's how you feel about it, you might have a problem. You might already have an issue with your masculinity because I've never
that
watched...
started off like a joke.
Yeah,
like
right.
what's his name?
That's right.
If you do, yeah,
right.
you might be a redneck.
Because not once when I watched that show, and I'm glad I didn't know these issues existed before I started watching it. Because not once that I watched the show and ever see anything that'd be like, oh God, I can't believe they did that. Oh, they're screwing us over. What I saw was sacrifice. What I saw was an interesting angle of where they took the old show, because it's a kind of a continuation of the original series.
Yeah.
I saw a chance to build the universe even more and give these characters a chance to finally get some screen time that didn't before.
Yeah.
But I love it. And poor Kevin Smith, I know he's taking a lot of crap, and I've seen him fighting with people and this. You know what? Y'all can all kiss my ass. I think Masters of the Universe Revelation is, in fact, a revelation, and I loved it, and I'm going to watch it again.
All right.
P.S. Screw you.
All right, then.
Go ahead.
That's not what was the
Sorry.
going for. But okay.
Are we doing the contest next, or what comes out?
What comes out is you.
All right, so this week on the Blu-ray and the DVD, we've got A Quiet Place Part 2 is hitting. They are also releasing a Quiet Place Part 2 2-pack Blu-ray.
Oh, cool.
Can y'all please stop? Oh, they're starting. Why do they start right at the end of every show?
Y'all need to behave. Come here.
I'm
gonna have to kick
yell at them. They didn't send me this.
I'm gonna kick somebody out.
Also, you're all gonna be excited to know that Midnight in the Switchgrass comes out.
Oh, good.
On Blu-ray, so you can ignore that.
Excuse me. I'm gonna.
Dead Zone, the collector's edition from Shout Factory.
Shout.
Is coming out. American Gods Season 3. American Gods Season 3. I'm going to say this right. The Daimajin trilogy. I never say it right. It's kind of like a Godzilla kind of thing, but it's this gigantic samurai warrior. Is coming out. A movie called State and Maine. One of the most excited things I'm about is the Herculoids, the complete series, which I need to ask because they never sent that to me. Very upset. And a movie we both love is getting released by Shout Factory.
Shout.
Called Brotherhood of the Wolf with Mark Dacascos.
Oh, okay.
This movie.
Yeah.
It's gonna. If you've never seen Brotherhood of the Wolf, you should check it out. I believe it's a French film as well.
It's interesting.
But Mark Dacascos plays like an Indian thing with a French soldier or something, and they're fighting monsters or something. Isn't that what it is?
Yeah.
Do you remember the movie?
I think I do. Random.
You loved the movie back in the day, and now you don't remember
it's random though.
Yeah, it's this one.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's pretty much what's coming out.
Okay. Coming out at the theater. Let's see.
Good ones this week.
Thursday. There's a Thursday release to Netflix. It's a movie called Resort to Love. It looks like a kind of a romantic comedy about this girl who's on an island resort. But doesn't want her to know. I guess her ex is there too. I don't know what's happening. Somebody, let's see, Christina Milian, Alicia Keys is in this. I don't know what's happening. If you find it, it's on Netflix. Resort to Life, coming out Friday nationwide. It is the new movie with Matt Damon, and it's called It is called Stillwater. It's about this guy on an oil rig who goes to visit his estranged daughter who's in prison. Interesting. We will be seeing that. Kind of the big one for Disney here, Jungle Cruise. It's available nationwide. Is it going to be theater in?
Yes.
And Disney?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay. So you'll find it, Jungle Cruise. This is the one with The Rock, a.k.a. Dwayne Johnson, and Emily Blunt. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. We'll see.
It just
looks
like
fun.
Indiana Jones, action, Pirates of the Caribbean, adventure, silliness. I think it's going to be another popcorn flick.
There you go. Coming out nationwide, The Green Knight.
That is one I'm very interested in.
Because it's Dev Patel.
Dev Patel, but Sarah Gawain in The Green Knight. I remember the old Sean Connery movie where he played the Green Knight.
Yes, so
I'm interested to see what they do.
We'll see what's up with this. It says it's a bold, fresh spin on the classic tale of the Knights of the Round Table. We'll find out. Also on video, demand, and digital, I'm kind of interested in this. It's a movie called Twist. It is a very modern reimagining of Oliver Twist. Okay, the book by Charles Dickens. This is more Oliver Twist with guns. and fighting. I don't even know what that's about, but I want to see it. Lena Headey's back, so we just saw her like last week. We're gonna see her
She's
again.
also Evelyn in He-Man.
Oh, okay. Video Man and Digital, a movie called A Dark Foe. It's about an FBI agent who's dealing with the abduction of his own sister. So that seems interesting. Also, Video Man and Digital, something called Ride the Eagle. It looks kind of like a weird comedy. It's Susan Sarandon, J.K. Simmons, a bunch of people, and this kid's left an inheritance, but there's some conditions to getting the inheritance that he has to do first.
Man, there always is.
Also, Video Demand and Digital, a movie called The Exchange. It's about a guy looking for a best friend, so he does a mail order best friend. Sounds strange. We'll see how that goes. Limited. Okay, that's pretty much everything that's kind of coming out wide release for everyone.
Interesting.
So now we go to
Our
contest.
Contest. We have a few contests. Some of the ones that have been up for a little while, I've let them linger a little bit longer because they kept sending me some extras. Then I've added a couple more, and we have a couple other ones fixing to pop up. So we still have a few copies of Space Jam on 4K, the original, The House Next Door, Meet the Blacks 2. I'm pretty sure you don't have to see Meet the Blacks 1 for this kind of movie. It's a spoof comedy on horror. The Wrath of Man. It's not the Wrath. Jason Statham, Guy Ritchie. One of the new ones was the Dead Zone Collector's Edition, which is the Stephen King movie with Christopher Walken, which reminds me of a funny joke I'll tell you in a minute. The 4K edition of Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, the really good one. And then, of course, the 4K version of Mortal Kombat. Now, back to my Christopher Walken joke. Remember when Johnny Carson used to do Karnak?
Yes.
When he put the thing to them?
Yes.
I'll never forget, and my best friend used to do this impression all the time, but he'd put a thing to his head and be like, Christopher Walken. Then he opened up the envelope and say, something the Reeve family will never see.
That's harsh.
I'm just going to let it linger there.
Yeah. All right.
It's a dark joke.
It's very dark.
Look it
all
up.
right. Thank you guys so much for watching this week's episode of Hollywood Matrimony Live. Don't forget to go find us, like us, share all those things on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Go find us, search for Hollywood Matrimony, and as always, visit our website, hollywoodmatrimony.com. Click the contest button. That's where all the free stuff is.
All right. Peace and love. Make sure you join us next week for an all-new episode of Hollywood Matrimony Live. Right here, where we'll talk about all the nonsense we just talked about, and I'm sure some other nonsense that has nothing to do with
more
anything.
nonsense.
Peace, love.